Okay, today we're going to go ahead and move on to the next section, 3.4, and we'll be looking at congruent triangles in this chapter. Okay, so in this section, congruent triangles, remember last section we figured out that a triangle adds up to 180, and we looked at the exterior angle theorem. All right, so here we go, congruent triangles. So two triangles are congruent if and only if their corresponding parts are congruent. All right, so how many parts are there in the triangles? Well, remember each triangle has three sides. Each triangle has three angles, which means there are technically 6 parts that are corresponding between two triangles. All right, when we write two triangles are congruent, all right, we labeled the first triangle using our 3 letters on it, so let's pretend we did ABC. We use a congruent symbol to show that they are congruent, and then we name the second triangle using the 3 letters, let's say DEF. All right, so congruent triangles, we need to match up the parts that go together. This is what we call a congruence statement. All right, so let's go down and look at the following picture. You'll notice triangle ABC and triangle DEF have a bunch of markings in the picture. All right, remember curls inside the picture by the angles illustrate angles that are equal. Tick marks through a side show that sides are equal. So for example, when I look at this picture, I notice angle A has one little curl mark. That means it has to be equal to angle D. They go together, they have one angle, one curl. Angle B has 2 curl marks. That would have to go with angle E. Notice angle C has 3 little curl marks, so that would go with angle F, which has 3. All right, now when we go to mark sides, we're going to look for sides and we're going to try to match them up perfect. So for example, I notice that AB has 1 tick mark on it. All right, now you'll notice that A had a curl, B had 2 curls. So when I go to write my other picture, I need to start at 1 curl and go to a double curl angle, so I must write it as DE. All right, now let's locate a side that has 2 tick marks. I notice BC has 2 tick marks. Well, if we go BC, notice B had 2 angle curls, C had 3, so in my next picture, I need to start at E and then go to F because it had 2 curls and then 3 curls. All right, my last side, AC, has 3 tick marks. Notice I went from A with 1 curl to C, 3 curls, so I'm going to go D, F so that my letters stay consistent. Notice when they write their similarity statement right here, ABC goes with DEF. Notice A had 1 mark, D had 1 mark. B had 2 marks, E had 2 marks. C had 3 marks, F had 3 marks. So we must keep it in an order. All right, let's go ahead and look at our next picture. Notice we have the following triangles congruent. So they give us a congruent statement. All right, we can mark everything that goes together. So for example, notice the first letter in the triangle is A, so that angle A would get 1 curl, D would get 1 curl. They go together, they're in the same spot. Angle B is the middle letter, so I'm going to put 2 curls by angle B. You'll notice angle E is the middle letter, so I'm going to put 2 to show that that one goes together. You'll notice C and F are the last 2, so C will get 3, F will get 3. All right, now when we mark angles, we do curls. When we mark sides, we go ahead and mark tick marks. Notice AB is the first 2 letters, DE are the first 2, so they get 1 tick. They're equal to each other. All right, notice the next 2 letters are BC and EF, so BC gets 2, EF gets 2 tick marks to show that those 2 sides go together. Well, notice the first and the last letter, AC, would have to go with DF, so AC gets 3, DF gets 3 to show that those two are equal. All right, so sides we mark with tick marks, angles we mark with curls. If they have the same amount, then they're equal. All right, now we're going to try to match this up writing a statement. We want to match the letters so that we go with the same pattern. So notice it goes D to X to L. So we just went 3 curls by D, 1 curl by X, 2 by L. In my other picture, I need to trace it so that I go 3 curls, 1 curl, 2 curls. Notice if I start at T, I'm at 3 curls. I go to 1, X, and then I go up to L. So it's T, X, L. All right, so we want to trace it and stay with the same pattern when we write the letters. It's all about a pattern. Let's try another, LDX. So I'm at L. They have me going from a double to a triple mark to a single mark. So I'm going to continue that pattern. I'm going to go double, so L to triple, T to X to continue to stay with the same markings and the same pattern. All right, let's try one more of those. Let's switch to pink. Let's scroll down a little bit so we see it. It says XLT, so X to L to T. So we went single, double angle, triple marked angle. So I want to go X to L to D this time to stay with the same pattern. So patterns when we write our statement. All right. Now we're going to get to actually drawing a picture and labeling everything that's true. All right, so you'll notice this picture says triangle PQR is congruent to triangle STW. So I'm going to draw my first picture and I'm going to stay with the pattern PQR. I'm going to draw my second picture and I'm going to label my letters in the same pattern so that I know things mark up and stay in the same spot. So S, T, W. Notice we stayed with a pattern. All right, we're going to start off by marking angles. So the first letter is P. That has to go with the first letter, S. All right, next I'm going to mark Q and T because those are the next 2 letters. So I'm going to put 2 curls to show Q went with T. Then I'm going to slide over to the last 2 letters, R and W, and I'm going to put 3 this time to show that R goes with W. So our angles have been done. We can go ahead and list those angles. Angle P equals angle S. Angle Q should be equal to angle T. Angle R should be equal to angle W. So we've listed the congruent angles. Now we're going to go back to our picture and we're going to do the sides. Sides are 2 letters, so PQ will go with ST, 1 tick. PQ equals ST. All right, let's slide over. Let's use the next 2 letters, QR and TW. I'm going to put 2. I know that QR has to be equal to TW. All right, last, let's go to our first and last letter. So PR will go with SW, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. PR equals SW. We have listed the 3 congruent angles and the 3 congruent sides. That gives us a total of 6 corresponding parts. All right, let's go ahead and do another one of those. Let's draw our triangles and let's label them with the same pattern because it says GEO goes with tree. I'm going to go GEO in a pattern so that I do both triangles the same way. My second one says triangle TRY. Again, let's label it with the same pattern so that letters stay in the same spot to match up. All right, let's mark angles. G goes with T. Angle G equals angle T. All right, let's slide over. E then would go with R. 1, 2, 1, 2 to show they go together. Angle E is equal to angle R. All right, let's go back and do our last two letters. O, give it 3. Y, give it 3 to show those two are equal to each other. All right, now let's go do sides. Remember, sides are 2 letters at a time. So I'm going to go GE, tick, TR, tick. GE has to equal TR. Let's go back to our picture. Let's slide over to the next two, EO and RY. EO gets 2, RY gets 2. And now let's state that those two would have been equal. All right, last, let's do our first and our last. First and our last. GO, 1, 2, 3, TY, 1, 2, 3, to illustrate that they go together. And we have listed our 3 congruent angles, our 3 congruent sides, 6 total parts. Now remember, we can flat out answer these from just looking at the saying, so we don't even need the picture. Match up the correct spots. So for example, this question says HT, they give us 2 letters. Well, notice H and T are the first and the last. So they have to go with the first and the last from the other triangle, which would be D and G. Okay, again, if it's an angle, I'm just matching one. Angle O is the middle, angle W is the middle. They have to be in the congruent spots. All right, let's go ahead and try one down here. NI, stay with the pattern. They went NI backwards, so I'm going to stay with the pattern and go SO so that we continue to write them in the same spot. All right, angle L. Angle L is the first letter in this one, so the first one in my other one would be angle W. So again, we can match them from their order when they write a congruency statement. All right, now we're going to use some pictures to solve some different things. All right, so let's look at example number 5 with us, Purdy, please. All right, you'll notice in this picture that it wants us to find the value of x. All right, now we can also find the value of d because we know that a and d have to be equal. So we can do this really 2 ways. If this is 90 degrees here, we know that 2 on a straight line have to add up to equal 180. So if that's 90, we know that this is 90 because it has to add up to 180 on a straight line. So to solve this, I can take 2x minus 16 and set it equal to 90 degrees because we know that those are congruent. Now, if I solve that, I'm going to add 16 to both sides first. And I'm left with 2x equals 106. And if I divide by 2, I get x to equal 53. Now, the second part of this question says find angle D, and you'll notice angle D is this angle over here. Well, you'll notice angle D is the first letter, which means it's the same as the first letter here, which means A is the same as D. So if angle A is equal to angle D, and angle A was 49.3, then angle D has to equal 49.3. All right, let's look at another one. All right, in this picture, I notice that it wants me to find the value of AB. It wants me to find what segment is congruent to AB first, and then we're going to solve. All right, so if I look at this picture, find the value of x, you'll notice that AB is the first 2 letters, so it has to be equal to DE. All right, now again, we're using our letters to match it. So here's AB, let's find DE, put a tick mark on those 2. We know those 2 have to be equal to each other. So 2x minus 2 has to be equal to 6. We'll solve it. Let's add 2 to both sides. We get 2x equals 8. And now I'm going to divide by 2, which will tell me that x is equal to 4. Now let's look at the second part of this question. The second part of this question says, what angle is congruent to F? Well, let's go back up to our letters and let's look. Here's letter F. Letter C is in the same spot, so those two should be equal. Now you'll notice letter B and E should be equal then also. Well, if B is 53, then we know E has to be 53. Now, notice the question says find angle F, so it wants us to find this missing angle. Well, if you look inside that triangle, we have a 90 degrees and a 53. Well, we know a triangle adds up to 180. Those two add up to equal 143. So to find the missing angle, I can take 180 minus 143, which will tell us the missing angle for F is 37 degrees. So again, we're using our pieces from our congruent statement to figure out what parts are equal. Okay, let's go ahead and draw one and look at solving a couple problems. Triangle Pet goes with triangle Sam. They are congruent. I'm going to label Pet, and I'm going to draw triangle Sam. Again, I'm going to label it in a consistent order with the same pattern so that I can mark my picture. Now you'll notice this picture is giving us sides, so we want to go ahead and mark sides in this to figure out what's equal to each other. So PE is the first two letters, SA are the first two, they get a tick mark. Let's slide over. ET goes with AM. Well, let's mark our picture. We're dealing with sides. P and T would go with S and M, so 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. All right, so again, this picture is dealing with sides, so I'm marking the congruent sides that go with it. Now let's label our picture. It says PE is 14. It says ET is 18. It says that TP is 21. And then it tells us that SM is 2x plus 7. Now again, we've marked our picture so that we know which two sides are equal or go together. You'll notice this side has 3 markings. You'll notice this side has 3 markings, so they have to be the two that go together. So 2x plus 7 has to be equal to 21. We'll now solve that. Minus 7 on both sides, I get 2x equals 14. And now when I divide by 2, I get x to equal 7. We just had to find x. So we're going to mark our sides to figure out which two sides actually match up to be the congruent sides that we said equal. All right, let's do one more example. And let's look at an example where we're going to look at angles this time. So triangle Cub is congruent to triangle Socks. I'm going to label my first triangle and my second triangle in the same pattern so that it matches up. All right, now I notice this picture is talking angles, so I'm going to mark angles. All right, so angle C goes with angle S. The first two letters get a curl. Angle, I'm going to slide over. U will go with O. So let's go 2 curls, 2 curls. The last letters, B and X, let's put 3 curls to show they are equal to each other. All right, so we marked our picture. Now let's go ahead and label our picture. Angle C is 22. Angle X is 58. Angle U is 15x plus 40. Now, we need to find x. Notice in this picture that this angle over here is 58 with 3 markings. That means this angle with 3 markings in my other picture has to be 58 also because they are congruent, they're equal. Now I notice that the triangle Cub has to add up to 180, so I can take everything inside, 22 plus 58 plus 15x plus 40, and that has to add up to equal 180 inside a triangle. All right, combine like terms. I have 15x plus, if I add up 22, 58, and 40, I get 120. And we know that should add up to equal 180 inside a triangle. If I subtract 120 from both sides, I have 15x equals 60. If I divide by 15, I get x equals 4. All right, so the important part is being able to mark our picture and then label our picture accordingly. Use the letters in the order they're given and draw your picture in a pattern so that they stay consistent. All right, we're going to do some practice